Hi, I'm Nina Gerber from the Technical University of Darmstadt, and this is joint work with Karola Marky from the University of Hannover and University of Glasgow. And I will be talking about the potential of security and privacy adapts to serve as a social resource in the user's quest for more secure and privacy-preserving behavior. We know that help from knowledgeable peers can impact the behavior of lay users positively. And based on that, it has been suggested, for example, to build a security neighborhood watch or to support tech-savvy people in giving peer advice. However, we know from prior work that tech-savvy people have little interest in intervening in the S&P behavior of their social environment. And we want to know why that's so and how can we change it. So our research goal is twofold. First, we want to investigate the status quo of S&P support giving in the private context. And second, we want to explore options to overcome existing barriers. To do this, we first conducted semi-structured interviews with 13 S&P Adepts who received a €20 gift card for their participation. And we conducted a thematic analysis on the data. We found that almost all of our participants had tried to raise the S&P awareness of their family and friends at some point, and almost all were regularly asked for advice and enjoyed it. Although some also reported negative aspects on being asked for advice, for example, being asked too often about the same topics. Half of our participants said that they had experienced social conflicts due to their S&P behavior, for example, with family members about using IoT devices in their homes. Also, half of our participants had tried to motivate others, but mainly to use secure authentication. Also, half of our participants said that they feel responsible for their parents' S&P, but not for the S&P of others in their social environment, because they thought that the decision to behave securely and privacy preservingly was a personal one that they had no right to interfere with. Accordingly, less than half of our participants said that they had ever actively interfered in someone else's security and privacy behavior. We also found that conversations about S&P were mainly sparked by sitting together with others in front of the computer or by using someone else's computer or giving general tech support. Most participants said that they would talk with others about using protection measures and data breaches or security incidents, but only to other S&P adepts because they thought that non-tech savvy people were not interested in those topics. Not surprisingly, one of the main obstacles of giving S&P support was a lack of interest. For example, one of our participants said that it's like when someone tells me something about brass band music. I would nod my head and say, that's interesting, but that wouldn't really interest me, and that's exactly how I feel the other way around. Other obstacles included social aspects, such as not wanting to bother others or being intrusive, or support giving being too time-consuming or too much effort. If our participants gave solicited or unsolicited advice, they received more positive than negative reactions. For example, interest, gratitude, sympathy, and acceptance, while negative reactions were mainly disinterest. Our participants also received mainly neutral reactions to their own S&P behavior. That is, others were mostly neutrally surprised. However, some participants also reported being smiled upon. For example, I think if you're interested in data security, you always get these joking sayings that you're one of the tinfoil hatters of paranoid people. Almost all of our participants said that they had brought about no long-term change in other S&P behavior, but that they would understand this ignorance of their advice and would not take it personally. Based on these findings, we conducted a second study, 3 co-creation workshops with 11 additional S&P adepts who received €25 or £20 for their participation. Again, we conducted a thematic analysis on the data. Our goal was to explore solutions to support S&P adepts in their support. And we grouped the solutions that came up during the workshops into 4 themes. The first is to set a constructive dialogue space because it is complicated to address S&P topics in normal conversations. For example, one of our participants said, I don't usually come into situations where my family or friends ask me about like security and privacy behavior. And when I speak to those people, I usually have other topics in mind than just randomly starting giving advice on internet security. So to address this, it is first important to create a constructive atmosphere, for example, by establishing social norms for such conversations, but also by finding a balance between creating awareness and accepting the user's S&P attitude, which might differ from that of the S&P adept. To establish contact without violating social norms, a possible solution might be to officially delegate one's own S&P in the private context, following the lines of, for example, data protection officers in the professional context. S&P Adepts can use icebreakers, such as referring to movies or the introduction of new technologies like contact tracing apps. It is also important to build trust, for example, by using some sort of certification or score that keeps changing based on the advice given. However, some participants also said that it would be necessary to have trustworthy institutions back up their statements. For example, these institutions need to say, that's how tracking works on the internet. Yeah, that's super creepy. I'm sure you guys don't want that. If you do it as individuals, doesn't matter how great people think you are, then you sound like a conspiracy theorist. The second set of solutions grouped around the harnessing the potential of exchange, because some participants complain about being asked too often about the same or about topics that they found hard to answer to. To address this, we could promote the exchange between S&P Adepts, for example, by sharing successful tactics and strategies for support, but also by referring people seeking help to other specialists who are more knowledgeable in this area. We could also promote the exchange between users, for example, by using a snowball system that you say, hey, I've already explained something similar to this guy, go see him. Or by creating a peer system, for example, in a school context. The third set of solutions grouped around facilitating knowledge transfer, because support is sometimes hard to give due to the lack of understanding and interest of the supportee. And to address this, we first have to find a common ground, for example, by using dictionaries that translate terms between adepts and lay users, by using consistent terms that do not keep changing over the years, like virus. But we could also use metaphors to explain complicated technical issues, such as end-to-end encryption. Or we could give S&P Adepts some kind of communication training. It is also important to highlight the relevance of security and privacy protection, for example, by illustrating the consequences of S&P violations by using real-life stories, for example. And the final set of solutions focused around strengthening the capabilities and opportunities of S&P Adepts, because sometimes it is difficult to keep up to date, especially if support is not rewarded. And to do this, we first have to improve expert knowledge, for example, by providing a news ticker that summarizes new research findings for practitioners, by publishing open access, or by creating testing knowledge quizzes. We should also reward support giving, for example, by making working time available for support, by recognizing support giving as a professional achievement, or by emphasizing the social aspects of the process. So to sum up, our recommendations based on our findings would be for S&P Adepts to signal that they are available as experts, to use conversation starters such as movies to talk about security and privacy topics, to stay positive, and to establish a common ground and find a shared language in conversations. Our recommendations for the whole research community would be to reward support giving, to facilitate access to information, for example, by publishing open access, to establish a peer system, and to create a platform for professional exchange. Challenges in doing this might be that S&P Adepts might not recognize their own knowledge gaps or need for action. If they do, S&P Adepts must ensure not to refer help seekers to malicious actors. And finally, S&P Adepts might lack the time and motivation for support. So to conclude, our results indicate that there indeed is a great potential to use S&P Adepts as a social resource to improve lay users' S&P behavior, but we must support these S&P Adepts in their support. Thank you for your attention. I'm now happy to take questions.